The universe had forgotten Caleb Ward. That was how it felt, at least, standing alone beneath the copper-red sky as the twin suns of Kepri 9 sank below the horizon. For 7 years, no voices but machines. No footsteps but his own. No reason to look over his shoulder, until the night the silence broke. Caleb froze when the alert sounded. Not the soft hum of farm systems. Not the wind cutting through steel grass. This was different. 3 sharp pulses echoed through his perimeter sensors. Someone was there. Caleb reached for the rifle mounted beside his door, his heartbeat suddenly loud in his ears. No one came to this world by accident. No trade routes. No cities. Just him, his crops, and endless space. The knocking came again. Slow. Careful. Almost polite. Caleb swallowed and opened the door. 3 figures stood under the pale starlight. They were not human. Their skin shimmered in soft shades of silver and deep violet, as if reflecting the sky itself. Their eyes were large, luminous, filled with exhaustion rather than threat. Long cloaks wrapped around their slender forms, torn and scorched at the edges. And behind them, 3 small shapes clung to their legs. Children. The tallest of the women stepped forward, her posture straight despite visible fatigue. She lowered her head slightly, a universal sign of respect. "We do not wish to harm you," she said carefully, her accent strange but her words clear. "Our ship is broken. We need shelter. Only for the night." Caleb stared. 7 years alone had not prepared him for this. "Who are you?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "My name is Scylla," she replied. "These are my sisters, Owen and Vaisha. And our children." One of the children peeked out, clutching a small glowing object shaped like a star. Caleb looked past them and saw it, smoke rising from the far ridge. Wreckage glinting faintly in the distance. Whatever they were telling the truth. He lowered his rifle. "You can stay," he said. "But we talk in the morning." Relief washed over Scylla's face so quickly it hurt to see. Inside, the farmhouse felt smaller than ever. The women moved carefully, respectful of the space, while the children stared wide-eyed at human furniture and earth relics lining the walls. Caleb brewed hot protein tea, the only thing he had ready. The children accepted it with both hands, as if it were treasure. "You live here alone?" Owen asked quietly. "Yes." "For long?" "Long enough." That night, Caleb lay awake listening to unfamiliar sounds, soft voices, gentle humming, the quiet reassurance of mothers calming frightened children. The house that had echoed for years now breathed. Morning brought truth. Their ship was destroyed beyond easy repair. Power core shattered. Navigation burned out. Scylla explained their story while sunlight poured through the windows. They were refugees. Their homeworld, Elira, had fallen to an expansionist alien coalition that erased resistance through genetic warfare. Their mates had stayed behind to buy time. The sisters fled with only their children and a half-functioning ship. "They hunt survivors," Vaisha said softly. "Especially humans." That caught Caleb's attention. Why humans? Scylla met his gaze. Because humans adapt faster than anyone expected. And fear spreads quicker than bullets. Caleb laughed once, bitter and sharp. Sounds about right. Days passed. Caleb helped salvage what he could from the wreck, and turned out to be a brilliant engineer, improvising tools from scrap. Vaisha taught the children, and somehow Caleb, alien mathematics that bent logic. Scylla studied his crops, quietly suggesting changes that doubled output in a week. Humans, Caleb realized, weren't the only clever ones. But humans had something else. When a foreign patrol drone appeared on the horizon, scanning the land, Caleb didn't hesitate. He powered down every system, masked heat signatures, and buried the wreckage beneath magnetic soil. The drone passed overhead. The sisters watched in disbelief. "You hid us, without technology," Owen whispered. Caleb shrugged. "Sometimes simple works best." That night, as the children slept, Scylla stood beside him on the porch. "You didn't ask what we could give you," she said. "I didn't help you for payment." She studied him carefully. You are alone. But you chose kindness. Caleb looked up at the stars. I was tired of surviving. Above them, something shifted in the darkness. A shadow moved between the stars, slow, deliberate. And for the first time since they arrived, Scylla looked afraid. They found us, she said. Caleb tightened his grip on the railing. Then, he replied calmly, they picked the wrong world. The shadow did not belong in the stars. Caleb Ward had spent 7 years learning the sky of Kepri 9. He knew every satellite drift, every meteor path, every harmless trade beacon. The shape above his farm was none of those. It moved with intent, slow, patient, watching. Scylla's skin dimmed to a dull grey, a sign of fear Caleb was beginning to recognize. They do not rush, she whispered. They circle. They wait for mistakes. Caleb nodded once. Panic wasted time. Time was something he still had. Everyone inside, he said calmly. Lights out. No noise. Awayen and Vaisha didn't argue. They moved fast, guiding the children with quiet confidence. Caleb sealed the doors and pulled the manual shutters closed, cutting off all visible heat and light. The farmhouse became a bunker. From his console, Caleb brought up the sensor feeds. The alien craft was not large, scout class. But scout ships meant something worse followed. Single ship, Caleb muttered. They're confirming, not attacking. Scylla stood beside him. They hunt families like ours. Survivors carry knowledge. Children carry futures. Caleb glanced at the closed hallway where the kids slept. His jaw tightened. Not tonight, he said. The scout deployed drones, small, insect-like machines that skimmed low over the fields. One passed directly over the buried wreckage of the Eliran ship. It paused. Caleb's heart slowed instead of racing. Got you, he whispered. He flipped a switch. Beneath the soil, his farm's irrigation grid surged. Electromagnetic pulses, crude but powerful, rippled through the ground. The drone spasmed midair and crashed into the dirt, smoking. The others immediately pulled back. On the monitor, the scout ship adjusted its position, rising higher. They know now, Owen said softly. You used force. Caleb leaned back in his chair. I used bait. He began typing commands rapidly, rerouting systems never meant to work together. Farm machinery, power regulators, weather stabilizers. Human tech was messy, adaptable, and deeply misunderstood by most alien engineers. The scout ship fired. A thin beam sliced across the field, carving glass from stone where the farmhouse had been moments earlier. But the farmhouse wasn't there. At least, not on sensors. Caleb had spent years hiding from loneliness. Turns out, hiding from enemies wasn't much harder. The house vanished from scanners, masked by layered heat echoes and false terrain signals. To alien systems, it looked like nothing more than broken land and bad data. Human deception is inelegant, Vaisha said, watching the readings. Caleb grinned faintly. Works anyway. Minutes stretched into an hour. The scout ship lingered, uncertain. Finally, it pulled back, accelerating toward orbit. Scylla exhaled slowly. This was only a test. Caleb knew it too. They'll be back, he said. With friends. By morning, there was no pretending anymore. The children sensed it first. They stayed closer, quieter. One of them, Scylla's youngest, Myra, asked a question that made Caleb stop in his tracks. Are they coming to take us away? Caleb knelt to her level. No one's taking anyone. Not while I'm here. But you're just one human, she said innocently. Caleb smiled. That's usually enough. They gathered around the kitchen table. No hiding. No half-truths. I won't force you to stay, Caleb said to the sisters. If you want to run, I'll help. Scylla shook her head. Running only delays loss. Owen folded her arms. If we fight together. Caleb nodded. Then we do this right. The plan wasn't elegant. It wasn't official. And it definitely wasn't approved by any government. It was human. Caleb contacted an old friend, a data smuggler who owed him a favor. The message was short and untraceable. Need eyes. Need noise. No questions. While waiting, Caleb transformed his quiet farm into something else entirely. Tractor drones became mobile cover. Weather towers turned into signal jammers. His grain silos, reinforced and grounded, became kinetic traps. The sisters watched in disbelief. You prepared for war, Vaishya said. I prepared for failure, Caleb replied. Same thing, really. That night, the stars moved again. This time, 3 ships. The children were hidden deep underground, shielded by layers of earth and human paranoia. The sisters stood with Caleb, watching the sky burn with artificial light. They think this is a soft target, Owen said. Caleb activated the final phase. The sky screamed. False signals erupted in every direction. Phantom ships, fake colonies, ghost fleets screaming human signatures across the system. The alien ships hesitated, suddenly unsure which threat was real. Then Caleb struck. The silos fired. Not missiles. Debris. Thousands of metal fragments accelerated at impossible speeds, overwhelming alien point defenses. One scout ship lost a wing and spiraled away, burning. Another fired wildly, hitting nothing. The third tried to retreat. It didn't make it. When the silence returned, Caleb slumped against the console, breathing hard. He had just declared war. Scylla looked at him with something like awe. You did not just protect us, she said quietly. You challenged them. Caleb wiped sweat from his face. They challenged my home. A transmission cut through the static. Human. Caleb Ward, a voice said. This is Captain Elian Ross of the Free Terran Fleet. We saw your signal storm from 3 systems away. Caleb blinked. That was fast. Ross laughed. You humans and your chaos. You always light fires where no one expects. The channel stabilized. We're coming, Ross said. And we're not alone. Caleb looked at the sisters. At the sleeping children below them. At the sky that had finally noticed him again. Good, he said. Tell them to hurry. Above Kepri 9, the universe had made a mistake. It had underestimated one lonely human. The sky did not darken. It filled. Caleb Ward had seen ships before, cargo haulers, survey craft, lonely frontier runners, but what arrived above Kepri 9 was something else entirely. Human ships tore out of hyperspace in messy, imperfect formations, their hulls scarred, mismatched, and unmistakably human. They weren't elegant. They were alive. Scylla stared upward, her skin glowing brighter than Caleb had ever seen. That many, they came for you. Caleb swallowed. They came because someone asked. The first transmission cracked through the air, overlapping signals colliding like excited voices. This is the Free Terran Fleet. This is Vanguard 3. This is Old Bastion, and someone owes us a drink. Caleb let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The alien survivors watching from the ruins of their broken scouts didn't move. They didn't fire. They froze. The human fleet didn't rush. It spread out, surrounding the system with casual confidence, as if this backwater world had always been important. Captain Elian Ross appeared on Caleb's screen, dark-skinned, sharp-eyed, wearing a uniform that had clearly seen better days. You made a mess, Ward, Ross said. We like messes. Glad you could make it, Caleb replied. Ross's gaze shifted, locking onto Scylla and her sisters. His tone changed, not softer, but steadier. You're under Terran protection now. The words carried weight. The alien response came moments later. A distorted voice broke through the comm channels, cold and calculated. Human presence is unauthorized. Withdraw immediately. Ross leaned back in his chair. No. Silence followed. Then the alien voice returned, sharper. You harbor targets belonging to the coalition. Caleb stepped forward. They belong to no one. Ross smiled faintly. That's our line. The standoff stretched, seconds ticking like heartbeats. Then something shifted. More alien ships appeared at the edge of the system, larger, heavier. Warships. Owen's hands trembled. That is a full strike force. Caleb clenched his jaw. Figures. Ross didn't look surprised. All hands, he said calmly. This just became official. The battle did not begin with explosions. It began with humans thinking. Human ships darted unpredictably, using outdated tech in unexpected ways. They overloaded scanners with junk data, used reflected sunlight as cover, and hurled asteroids with math no alien computer had ever bothered to calculate. The aliens fired clean, precise volleys. They missed. Caleb watched as a human corvette skimmed dangerously close to a warship, dumped scrap metal into its path, then vanished behind a gravitational ripple. The alien vessel slammed into its own shield field and tore itself apart. Vaisha whispered, stunned. They fight like artists. Caleb nodded. More like mechanics. On the ground, the farmhouse shook as shockwaves rippled through the atmosphere. Dust fell from the ceiling. The children cried out. Scylla moved instantly, gathering them, her voice calm, steady, ancient. The glow of her skin spread gently through the room, soothing fear. Caleb felt it too, a warmth that anchored him. Outside, a beam sliced through the soil, striking near the underground shelter. Caleb cursed. They're targeting the surface. Ross's voice cut in. Ward, we've got incoming ground forces. You need to move. Caleb shook his head. Not happening. Caleb. This farm is bait, Caleb said firmly. And bait works best when it doesn't run. He opened a hidden panel and flipped a switch he had sworn never to use. The ground trembled. From beneath the fields, massive mechanical structures rose, old mining rigs retrofitted into automated defense walkers. Rusted. Ugly. Powerful. Alien sensors screamed in confusion. They armed their civilian infrastructure, an alien commander hissed. Wrong, Ross muttered. They repurposed it. The walkers fired, not energy weapons, but kinetic rounds that tore through shields designed for plasma warfare. One alien drop ship disintegrated mid-descent. The human fleet pressed harder. But the aliens adapted. A massive warship shifted position, charging a weapon that bent space itself. The energy buildup made Caleb's teeth vibrate. That will destroy everything, Owen said. Scylla looked at Caleb. If it fires, the children. I know, Caleb said quietly. He keyed into the channel. Ross. I see it. Caleb's voice hardened. I've got one move left. Ross didn't hesitate. Do it. Caleb rerouted every remaining power cell on the farm. The lights went out. The air went cold. The final defense activated. A localized gravity inversion. Space folded inward around the alien warship, not crushing it, but turning its own mass against itself. The vessel twisted, buckled, and collapsed into a burning knot of debris. The explosion lit the sky. When the light faded, the aliens were gone. Retreat signals echoed across the system. Silence returned. Human ships held position, watchful but victorious. Caleb sank to his knees. Scylla knelt beside him, gripping his shoulders. You stood against an empire. Caleb laughed weakly. Didn't plan on it. Ross's face reappeared. You just changed how they see this sector. Good, Caleb said. They were getting ideas. Ross grew serious. Ward, this isn't over. They'll come back smarter. Caleb looked at the sisters. At the children peeking out from the shelter. At the world that had finally become more than a hiding place. Then we'll be ready, he said. Above them, the human fleet remained. Humanity did not abandon its own. And the universe was starting to learn why. Victory did not feel loud. After the last alien ship vanished beyond the edge of the system, the sky over Kepri 9 felt almost too quiet. Human vessels held their positions, engines glowing softly like watchful stars. No cheers echoed through space. No celebrations followed. Because everyone knew this was only a pause. Caleb Ward stood outside the farmhouse as dawn broke, the soil still warm beneath his boots. Smoke drifted from distant impact sites, and pieces of alien metal lay scattered across his fields like fallen stars. This land had been his escape. Now it was a battlefield. Captain Ross arrived in person before noon, his shuttle kicking up red dust as it settled near the wreckage of the old alien ship. He stepped out slowly, eyes scanning everything: defenses, terrain, damage. "You turned a farm into a fortress," Ross said. Caleb shrugged. "Didn't mean to." Ross gave a tired smile. "That's usually how it starts." Inside the farmhouse, the children watched nervously as humans in mismatched uniforms moved through the halls, respectful but curious. Some paused to smile, others to kneel and offer small trinkets, old coins, unit patches, tiny holograms. The sisters stood together, protective but calm. Ross removed his helmet when he entered the kitchen. "I owe you an apology," he said to Scylla. "Human space hasn't always been kind to refugees." Scylla inclined her head. "You came when called. That matters." Ross nodded. "The Coalition won't forget this. You're all targets now." Caleb leaned against the counter. "We already were." Ross studied him. "You understand what standing here means?" Caleb met his gaze. "Means I stop running." Ross exhaled slowly. "Command wants to relocate you. Secure world. Heavy defenses." The children looked up. Scylla's glow dimmed slightly. "And this world?" Ross hesitated. "Strategically, expendable." Caleb felt something tighten in his chest. "This place saved us," Owen said firmly. "We won't abandon it." Ross looked between them. "Then you'll need more than courage." Caleb straightened. "Then help us build." That was the moment things changed. Human engineers stayed. Not ordered, volunteered. They reinforced the farm's defenses, not into a base, but into something new. A hybrid space. Part human. Part alien. Part stubborn frontier madness. Scylla worked beside them, sharing knowledge she had hidden for years. Not weapons, but life. Systems that could grow food anywhere. Crops that healed soil damaged by war. "This is resistance," she told Caleb one evening as they watched green shoots rise where metal had burned the earth. "Not destruction. Survival." Vaishya taught human pilots alien mathematics that made navigation faster and safer. Awayan redesigned defense grids that adapted instead of breaking. The children learned both worlds at once. Weeks passed. The Coalition did not return. Instead, messages arrived, quiet, careful. Other refugees. Other survivors. Worlds on the edge, watching what happened at Kepri 9. "They see hope," Ross said during a secure transmission. "Hope scares empires." Caleb watched Myra and the others laughing near the greenhouse. Good. But hope always demanded payment. One night, Scylla stood alone beneath the stars, her glow flickering faintly. Caleb joined her, sensing the weight she carried. "You are thinking of Elira," he said. She nodded. "If I had stayed, if I had fought differently." "You saved your children," Caleb said. "That matters." Scylla turned to him. "Humans choose individuals over empires. That is your strength. And your weakness." She smiled sadly. "We forgot how." The next morning, a Coalition signal arrived. Not a threat. An offer. They wanted Scylla. Her knowledge. Her mind. In exchange, they promised to leave Kepri 9 untouched. The message echoed through the farmhouse like poison. "They lie," Owen said instantly. "They always do," Vaishya added. Scylla said nothing. That night, Caleb found her preparing datapads. "You're thinking of accepting," he said quietly. "If I go," she replied, "they may spare this place." Caleb's voice hardened. "They won't." She looked at him then, really looked. "And if I stay, they will return with more force." Silence stretched between them. Caleb spoke slowly. Humans don't trade people for peace. Sila's glow brightened painfully. That is why they fear you. The decision was made at sunrise. Not by words. By action. The coalition returned sooner than expected, 5 warships emerging from hyperspace in aggressive formation. But they did not find an isolated farm. They found a community. Human ships moved into position. Hybrid defenses activated. Refugee vessels, small, battered, appeared behind them, drawn by something stronger than fear. The coalition commander transmitted once more. Surrender the architect. Caleb stepped into the open channel. No. The response came instantly. Then you choose annihilation. Caleb's voice remained calm. We choose each other. The battle was shorter than anyone expected. Not because humans were stronger, but because they were united. Coalition ships faltered as systems failed. Food supplies contaminated by non-lethal biosabotage Sila had designed years ago. Navigation collapsed under alien math turned against itself. Human pilots exploited every hesitation. When the final coalition ship retreated, it did so broadcasting one message across the sector. Human worlds are no longer soft. Kepri 9 stood. Not as a fortress, but as a promise. That night, as the children slept and the stars watched silently, Caleb stood with Sila, and Vaisha beneath the sky that had changed all their lives. This world began as my hiding place, Caleb said. Now it's something else. Sila took his hand. It is home. And the universe was finally listening. History rarely remembered how wars truly ended. It remembered battles. Explosions. Heroes frozen in moments of fire and light. But the real turning points, the quiet choices, the stubborn refusal to give in, often passed unnoticed. Until Kepri 9. Months after the coalition retreat, the world no longer looked like a forgotten speck on a star map. Ships arrived regularly now, not warships, but transports. Refugees. Engineers. Farmers. Teachers. Humans and non-humans alike. They came not for conquest. They came because they had heard a story. Caleb Ward stood at the edge of the fields as new crops rose from soil once scorched by alien weapons. The land had healed faster than anyone expected. Sila's designs had transformed the ecosystem, blending human resilience with alien precision. This world should not be alive, one visiting scientist had said in awe. Caleb had answered simply, neither should we. But here we are. The coalition did not return. Instead, something worse, for them, happened. Others followed humanity's example. Frontier worlds began refusing unfair treaties. Refugees stopped hiding. Hybrid communities formed across the sector, exchanging ideas instead of weapons. Human engineers worked beside alien scholars, creating systems no empire could easily control. The coalition's greatest weapon, fear, began to fail. One evening, Caleb stood in the greenhouse watching the children work together. Myra carefully adjusted a nutrient flow while a human boy held the tablet steady. Laughter echoed off glass walls glowing softly with Sila's biolighting. They belong to 2 futures, Vaisha said quietly beside him. Caleb nodded. And neither one owns them. Sila joined them, her presence calm, grounded. The glow of her skin had changed over time, no longer flickering with fear, but steady, warm. You gave us something rare, she said to Caleb. What's that? A place where survival did not require becoming monsters. Caleb smiled faintly. Humans are good at that. Sometimes. The message arrived without warning. A coalition envoy. Unarmed. Alone. The transmission was routed through human channels, verified a dozen times before being allowed through. Captain Ross watched silently as the figure appeared on screen. Tall, pale, its voice measured. The coalition recognizes Kepri 9 as a neutral world. Silence filled the room. The envoy continued. Human influence has altered regional stability. Continued aggression is inefficient. Ross snorted quietly. Caleb stepped forward. You came to say you lost. The envoy did not deny it. You changed the cost of conquest, it said. We will not return. The channel closed. No cheers followed. Just quiet understanding. That night, under a sky filled with more stars than ships, the people of Kepri 9 gathered. Humans, Ellerons, and others whose names were never recorded in imperial databases. A fire burned in the open air. Stories were shared, not of victory, but of survival. One spoke of broken engines and impossible repairs. Vaisha spoke of teaching children numbers that bent space. Sila spoke of Elira, not its destruction, but its gardens. When it was Caleb's turn, he hesitated. I didn't plan to matter, he said honestly. I just didn't want to be alone anymore. The crowd listened. I think humanity's strength isn't our weapons, Caleb continued. It's that we keep choosing each other. Even when it's harder. Especially then. The fire crackled. Above them, ships passed peacefully, no alarms, no fear. Later, as the gathering faded and the children slept, Caleb stood once more on the porch where everything had begun. Sila joined him, the night air carrying the scent of growing things. You could have left, she said softly. After the battle. After the fleet arrived. So could you. She smiled. I stayed because you stayed. Caleb looked out at the land. I stayed because this stopped being just a place. He turned to her. It became a promise. Years later, historians would struggle to define the moment the balance shifted. Some would point to battles. Others to treaties. But the truth was simpler. It started with a lonely human on a forgotten world. A knock at the door. And a choice. Kepri 9 did not become a capital. It did not become a fortress. It became something far more dangerous to empires. A home. And the universe learned something important that day. Humanity did not need permission to belong. Humanity chose. And that choice echoed forever.